about it. Take our leaflet, take our telephone number, speak to us about the toxic nature of mainstream psychiatry. Mainstream psychiatry does more harm than good. Speak to us about it. Do you know someone?
This is fact. Barnet has been mentioned in The Guardian as being the second worst borough for therapeutic treatment. People commit suicide now than are killed on the roads. That's another fact. The official figure is 4,000 a year, but it's not the real figure. I don't know the real figure. But whenever you speak to somebody, they know somebody who has committed suicide. It is a real problem. It's a problem that no one wants to hear. They think if they don't talk about it, it will go away. It will not go away. You will, if you live in Barnet, end up in a hospital not a million miles away from where we're standing now. And if you ever have been in that hospital, you will see the conditions there. The conditions there are early 20th century conditions. They don't have long corridors anymore, they have short ones, but you still see the people pacing around. They pace up and down because that's all they've got to do. There was a day hospital there. It was called early prevention so that it stopped people going into hospital. What did they do? They closed it.
Being done in Barnet is they spend 2% against the rest of the country spending 15%. It has also been in one of our broadsheets that it is the second worst borough, health authority for treating mental health. So that's what we need to be telling people.
Supply services for the community, not services for ourselves. You know, if you're a counsellor, you know, you gotta, oh yes, everything's fine. But if you're actually a community member, you're screwed, excuse my French.
Yeah,
you really are. It's ridiculous.
Well, they want it to be a science. In fact, they're desperate for it to be a science because I think they probably feel guilty about, forcing this treatment on us against our will. If they could sort of get the approval of it being a science, you know, they oh yes, we know what we're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Start sort of coming out with these strange things like, oh, I'm a secret agent working with MI5. Now, mainstream psychiatrists, that's rubbish. Clearly insane. It's so simplistic. Or they're talking rubbish. Clearly insane, have to have the medication, we must stop them talking rubbish, it's so important to make them stop them talking rubbish. These open dialogue people, they listen to them and they read between the lines. Now why does this person like to think he's a secret agent? Does he feel that there's some conspiracy going on? And there are conspiracies. There's the conspiracy that says mainstream psychiatry is okay, and that's a big conspiracy in itself, you know.
Diagnosis, it's free. Sorry?
Yeah, well,
this is pretty much how they do it in the system. That's the point we're trying to make.
That's how they do it.
Because a lot of people, they get one diagnosis from one doctor, another from another doctor, and it's not real science, they're just deciding on it. So that's the point that we're making. It's like, it's random, you know. So. Oh, you've got a comorbidity. Post-traumatic stress disorder with personality disorder. It's quite
double
serious.
Diagnosis,
it's
double
quite serious,
pills.
that, yeah.
Double pills.
Double pills.
Psychiatric service advice.
I think
imbalance in your brain. Don't worry though, we can fix it. You've got the right medication.
Yeah, are you going to give him some pills?
Yeah, I will. I'm just going to put the label on.
Do I have to take the medication?
Yes, you have to take it. Otherwise, we'll forcibly hold you down and inject you. It's better that you just take it and make your life a lot easier. Don't worry about the side effects. Just
no, exactly. If you feel worse on the medication, it's actually a sign of how ill you really are, not the medication being bad for you.
I don't know what to. I feel I'm stunned. I've got a label. I've got.
You've got some control back in your life. It's cured. Actually, there's no cure. Actually, you have to. Yeah, there is no cure. You just have to take the medication.
I don't feel much better. I've still got a label on me.
It's the main thing is to keep the label on.
The madman's prayer. There's room to move in an empty skull with my battery brain and my feeble frame. No face is perfect in a plastic world. Looking through a window that hasn't got a view. You can tell the time by daylight, but no one ever asks you. Alienate, lunacy and hell. You can hear the laughter, always out of tune, like a child ringing bells. When my life is being strangled until the time I'm blue, I'm a freak on the other street, I'm not quite as good as you. But silently I'm frightened when people stop and stare. I would like to smile, but instead I make a mangled motion and say the madman's prayer.
All I have is pain. My love for you was in vain. Tears of bread. I gave her all I had to give. My tears of bread. I'm too afraid to die. There is no answer why. My tears of bread.
Okay, this is what is known as the Dennis Scott Unit. This is now the only mental hospital in Barnet, one of the most affluent boroughs of London. Yeah, well, this is where you go if we'll say all other things have failed, but mostly all other things haven't even been tried. The treatment in here, well, shall we say that if it was a prison, you'd probably have a revolt. But mostly these patients aren't going to revolt, because even if it goes through their mind that they may want to revolt, they would be drugged into oblivion, as mostly they are anyway. The oblivion that they're drugged into is not to help them, it's to keep them quiet, and even the quiet ones actually are drugged. I was made an addict in this hospital. A drug that should have been given to me 4 to 6 weeks was actually given to me for 18 months. I am sure I am not alone. I am just a lone voice. Senior staff in here don't listen to the patients at all. They have their own agenda, and their agenda is to drug people till they're submissive enough to just go quietly. Only I don't go quietly. I don't now go quietly, and I never will go quietly. And I suspect that what will happen is they'll say, we did the best we could do, or we were just doing our job. But we know other places where they have said they're just doing their job, or maybe even following orders. I feel very much that this hospital should have a full investigation into it. I also feel that that will not happen. That won't happen until possibly they do something to someone who knows people in higher places than I do.
Do you think there's anything sort of worse about this place compared to other places?
Okay, well, definitely. Again, in this borough, they spent millions on opening a hospital the other side of the borough where civilised treatment was given, a garden was there, meals were taken in a civilised way. You chose your meal that you wanted the night before, and you didn't have fights in the queues as goes on in here. Mealtime here is like a prison scene from Bad Girls, only with some bad boys thrown in.
Why do you call it inhumane?
Well, inhumane, for example, when you're going to see a doctor on their ward round, the famous ward round, you may remember the ward rounds from One Flew in the Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This should be called One Flew Over the Dennis Scott Unit. A ward round, so you'll sit outside in the corridor because you're down to see a doctor, and oh, lo and behold, suddenly you're not seeing the doctor, having sat there for maybe 2 or 3 hours. And the Victorian hospitals used to have long corridors, and the one good thing about that was they were longer, because pacing up and down is mostly all these patients do. This is a disgrace. In this 2012, a disgrace. It would be a very, when he was on duty, a very large man, probably pushing 6'4", 6'6", and he would stand there and just glare. He never looked at anyone or spoke to anyone. And once, this is the only thing that could vaguely be called abuse, although if I tell it to you, you can make your own minds up. And I sort of collapsed on the stairs, having gone downstairs for a pretty much daily cigarette, because when the staff didn't have time, you couldn't go outside, out the back, into some scrubland to have a cigarette. And I sort of collapsed on the steps. He dragged me up, another patient said, "Are you okay?" He didn't care if I was okay or not. And I fought with one of the healthcare assistants, and I did have bruising on my arm. I was resisting and fighting with him, but I put him about 6'2" as well, a largish man. My arms were bruised from that attack. Well, I wasn't attacking him. I was trying. I was resisting going back to my room.
Well, I don't think a patient should end up being bruised, personally.
I suppose I've heard that in other hospitals they break bones, and they rarely pay. And while the legal system is as it is, they won't. It's almost impossible to do that, to find a solicitor to take on a mental health medical negligence case. It's like rocking horse droppings. Only one member of staff, possibly two, were ever sympathetic to the patients, and they were on the lowest scale. They were healthcare assistants, and by no means were all the healthcare assistants good, because most weren't. Mostly they read their OK magazine and just sat around reading their magazines, and that was pretty much what they did. One of them was very good at cleaning, so she spent all her time cleaning. But two, including the one that found me the night when I took all the medication, and although I think this is probably a hospital policy because they thought I was dying, she went to the hospital with me, but she also was a caring person. And the other one, who's worked here, I believe, for probably 25, 26 years, is also a very caring person, but they were healthcare assistants. Even though they saw what was going on, they couldn't say anything, or wouldn't say anything. The day I took the massive overdose of a substance that I can't tell you the name of, I waited till approximately 10:15, which is after you've had medication called, as in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. At 10:15 would be after they'd done the check, looking through, making sure everyone was in their bed or they could see them. That's when I took the tablets, 10 of these unknown tablets. And I don't know what time it was, but I think it was possibly an hour or so afterwards that the healthcare professional looked through the window and saw that I was being sick and came in, and then I was unconscious, and that was the last thing I knew. I no longer attempt suicide, but no thanks to this hospital. All they are interested in is giving people pills and making sure they don't take it too much of their time. Well, actually words almost fail me when I think about the inhumane treatment that is given in this hospital.
My tears of red. I gave her all I had to give. My tears of red. I'm too afraid to die.